This week's Giving a Chapel talk is Rob Shook, class of 1983. Rob Shook is a 1983 graduate of Wabash College, where he majored in psychology and an area of concentration in computer science. His talk titled Visibility, Authenticity, Engagement, and Civility. Please welcome Rob Shook.
Good morning, and it is much cooler in here than it was for Freshman Saturday or for Homecoming Chapel. People see me sitting in the library. It's my satellite office over there outside Susan Albrecht's office, or they're over in the 1832 lounge, and they ask what I do and what I do here. You know about my IBM role from the introduction. I'd like to talk for just a moment about why I come to campus and why I come to campus whenever I can. I have 3 jobs as an alumnus. Number 1, to shorten your learning curves. Number 2, to make connections with and for people. And number 3, to be a penalty-free sounding board for you as a mentor. A highlight of coming here for me is getting to meet new people and reconnecting with friends, and some of you who really have become more family than friends. I've had the pleasure of being here for an extended stay this trip for Homecoming and the National Association of Wabash Men board meeting, representing your 14,139 living alumni, working with 25 incredibly engaged alumni who are on the NAWM board with me. And of course, I'm staying for the Glee Club's 125th anniversary celebration. We have 110 alumni coming back and 548 people for dinner on Saturday night with the concert. That'll be a great networking opportunity. The concert's going to be amazing, and I hope you already have your tickets because we're sold out. Your Alumni Association is dedicated to supporting the mission of this college, teaching young men to think critically, act responsibly, lead effectively, and live humanely. We ask alumni to contribute of their time, talent, and treasure. 43.9% of the alumni made a financial gift to the college last year. That's a tremendous number, and of course, as Wabash men, we can make that even better. We're in the upper echelon of giving percentages among universities, and that's something to be proud of. More so, it's something that will be asked of you to continue that trend. We're stewards of this college while we're here as students, and then while we're here as alumni. Alumni before my generation kept this place vital and growing for us. We strive to do the same thing for you, and we expect that you will do the same for those who come after you. For me, it is such a pleasure and honor to give back to the college that has given me so much. I'm going to talk with you about 4 themes this morning that differentiate us as Wabash men and as members of the Wabash community: visibility, authenticity, engagement, and civility. Let's start with visibility. Visibility matters. It helps other people know that they are not alone. It reminds you that you are not alone. It lets you know that there are people out there who care about you, and if you hide, if you act as something about you as something to be ashamed of, it becomes something to be ashamed of. Here's a chance for you to be visible. If you were born in Indiana, please stand. Please remain standing. If you were born in a state that borders Indiana, please stand. Everyone may sit. A couple more of these. If you were born outside the United States, please stand. Remain standing. If you have a parent who was born outside the United States, please stand. And remain standing. If you have a grandparent who was born outside the United States, please stand. And if you do not identify as Native American, please stand. Everyone may sit. I came out to 3 people on campus this week who didn't already know I was gay. Can you believe it? I assume everybody knows. Some of the examples I'm going to use this morning are based upon my experiences as a gay man. Just as we can learn from what each of us has lived, whether we're Black, Hispanic, Asian, South Asian, white, Jewish, agnostic, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, no matter where we were born, you will see common, relevant themes in what I will share. That's part of the underlying message of diversity and inclusion. We each bring unique experiences to the teams that we're a part of. As managers and as team leaders, as future managers and future team leaders, our jobs are to create environments where our teams can be fully present and to leverage the uniqueness that they bring, not just tolerate somebody who may be different. All of this starts with visibility. I'm going to share two stories about visibility this morning and why it matters. We'll start with the positive one. While preparing for my corporate service corps assignment with IBM in Tanzania, our team of 14 IBMers from India, Argentina, Denmark, Germany, China, Australia, the Czech Republic, Brazil, Mexico, and Canada met by phone a couple of hours a week to prepare for the work. It also let us build connections as a team. On our first call, we took a few minutes to introduce ourselves, and I mentioned that I'd been with IBM for over 25 years, what I did in my job, and while I'm both gay and out in my personal and professional lives, I would not be disclosing that part of my life while we were in Tanzania, since there are stiff legal penalties, including imprisonment, for gay folks there. I'm reminded of the line from Airplane where the pilot says, "So, Joey, you ever been in a Tanzanian prison?" A couple of people later, my colleague Birgitta from Denmark introduced herself and closed by saying, "And Rob, if anybody gives you any grief for being gay, you tell them I am your wife. I've got your back." The night we landed in Tanzania, she took a picture of us together with my cell phone, and so I had proof if anybody needed to know that we were a couple. What a tremendous ally, and now a friend. Had I not taken the risk, as small as it was, but a risk nonetheless, to be visible to my colleagues, to make that connection, I would not ever have known the support and the love of those same folks. I was able to be visible to my team. I was willing to do that, but I was not willing to be visible in a country where I could be imprisoned. That may be a failing on my part, but it was practical and expedient for me. The other story does not have a happy ending, although since I carry the lesson around with me every day, it worked out okay. I wish I could have gotten it right when it happened, but I did not. When I was working in Boca Raton for IBM, we had an all-hands meeting. We had probably 800 or 900 people together in a room. I was in the second row and near the front, and we had some coach, no idea who, speaking and giving a motivational talk to the team about teamwork and the importance of all that. And at some point in his presentation, he made the remark that someone was light in the loafers. That's an anachronistic euphemism for somebody who's gay. He went on to say that obviously we would have nobody like that at IBM. Now, I'd like to say that I stood up and corrected him. In front of the audience, IBM has a long history of not only not discriminating, but welcoming and valuing people for the diversity that they bring. I'd like to tell you that I took a stand for equality and inclusion. Alas, I did not. When I talked about this with one of my IBM godfathers, I was expecting him to tell me, "Oh, it's okay, you didn't say anything. You know, it was the speaker's fault for saying it." Trust me, those were not his words. I'd known this man for several years. He started out by telling me that he was ashamed of me. Those words cut me like a knife. He reminded me that there were more junior employees in the room who would have been watching to see what I do as an out manager. Since I did nothing, I communicated to everybody in that room that even an IBM manager did not value IBM's beliefs, protect them, or stand up for them. Tanzanian prison was not a possible outcome in that situation, and I should have spoken up. I am better than that. So I walked away from that experience with a regret and a painful lesson, and a resolve to never let that happen again. So if I can shorten your learning curve here this morning, please let me. Stand up for what you believe in, even, perhaps especially, when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or awkward to do. Visibility matters. Let's move now to authenticity. This section could just as easily be entitled Sincerity or Genuineness, but people know when you are just going through the motions. Authentic expressions of thought, emotion, or caring are tremendously valuable, and they're great supports to effective communication. People try to use your name to convince you they're being authentic. If you ever go to buy a car, the salesperson will say, "Rob, I know you're really concerned about safety," or "Rob, I know we can get you into this car for a good price." I'm going to teach you a secret. I'm going to teach you a secret you can use against this tactic when anybody has an ulterior motive for trying to appear authentic. Give them your middle name. The only person who ever uses my middle name is my mom, and it's when she's angry with me. So every time a car salesperson says, "Edgar, I know that you're interested in good gas mileage," all it does is reinforce to me that A, the salesperson has no idea who I am or what I want, and B, it uses their little trick of fake authenticity right against them. It keeps me on an even footing, even when they're trying to get an advantage. But real authenticity among friends, among fraternity brothers, among teammates or classmates, that is the stuff of legends. I have, over the years, reached out to teachers, scoutmasters, professors, and friends to make sure they know the impact they've had on my life. I had the opportunity to be interviewed the other day about alumni-student friendships and sat down to talk with one of my fraternity brothers who has, for all practical purposes, become a member of my family. The thing I appreciate most about our friendship is that we can and do talk about anything, and I appreciate that we can disagree and remain just as close friends as if we were of the same mind on topics. Those kind of authentic friendships are all too rare, and they can't be forced. They are noticed and appreciated by others, and we brought tears to the eyes of our interviewer. These friendships happen more readily at Wabash. You'll find at least one of those while you're here. Welcome it when it happens. Be open to the possibility. If you're sitting in your room or studying, not that there's anything wrong with that, the chances of finding that, though, are diminished. Put yourself out there and be yourself. Be visible and be authentic. I just alluded to the importance of engagement when I talked about getting out of your room and away from the books, at least occasionally, to meet people. Learn about them. I love hearing stories about where people have come from and what's happening in their lives. Now, while I am not a regular buyer of lottery tickets, they have to be above a certain point before they really get my attention. If I do not buy one, then my chances of winning are precisely zero. No matter how infinitesimally small the odds are, they are indeed greater than zero if I buy a ticket. If you don't engage, the chances of someone's coming up to you and saying, "I want to be your friend for the rest of your life," are probably pretty close to zero. If you go talk to a girl that you're attracted to, she may end up being your girlfriend, or she may end up being your wife. If you go to a networking event, you might meet the person who will give you the big break for your career. The chances of a recruiter just randomly stopping by your dorm room or your room in the fraternity house and saying, "I'd like to give you a paid internship for the summer, and that could lead to employment after graduation," again, pretty close to zero. If you go meet with them in an event, the chances are greater than zero. You simply have to get engaged. My brother Kaz and I had the opportunity to share a 15-minute Uber ride last summer. We both take great delight in hearing people's stories, and it was a race for each of us to see who could find out more about our Uber driver. Kaz asked, "How did you get started driving for Uber?" And he said, "Well, it was by accident." That, of course, led me to ask, it had to be a good story. Please tell us more about it. So he and three of his friends, the driver and three of his friends, have another friend who works at an orphanage. Last Halloween, the lady who works at the orphanage mentioned that she wanted to do something for Christmas for the kids that she takes care of. But there weren't any funds to do that, and she needed $5,000. The guys decided that they would drive for Uber until Christmas, and they would give the profits to her for the kids. Pretty cool, huh? He was retired, he'd put his kids and grandkids through college, and he took on a job to help others. They didn't raise $5,000, they raised $8,000. The story didn't stop there. They got a doll for one of the little girls in the orphanage, and she cried when she got it because what she really wanted was a cell phone. Now, they all thought that was pretty cute, but when they asked her why she wanted a cell phone, she said that she wanted to call her twin sister. Her twin sister, who was adopted by a family without her. Unfortunately, a cell phone would not solve that problem. Under Illinois law, only the adoptive parents, until that girl is 18, can reach out to the non-adopted sibling. Let's hope that they fix that. These guys keep driving so they can do something for her every month. On top of that, they met a 10-year-old girl who was burned over half of her body. There'd been a house fire. Her mom threw her from the second-story window to a fireman below. Before anyone else could get out of the burning house, the house collapsed, and every member of that 10-year-old girl's family was killed. So these guys keep driving so they can do something nice for her every month, too. You see the value of engaging, of being authentically interested in what people are doing, of being engaged in the world around you? We could have sat there for 15 minutes and done social media. We could have returned emails, called friends, but by being connected to our Uber driver that day, we got to hear an amazing story of generosity and kindness, one that sticks with us to this day and reinforces our basic belief in the general wonderfulness of people in this world. Another secret I'll share. I'm fascinated by where people come from and how they got from where they were to where they are now. Maybe they come from somewhere I've been. Maybe it's somewhere in the news. Maybe it's somewhere that I'd like to go. Rather than asking, "Where are you from?" or "How long have you been here?" both of those questions could intimate that they don't belong here. I ask, "How long has this city been your home?" The answer could be all my life. It could be my family and I just immigrated last year from Iran and settled here. Think about how inquisitiveness may be interpreted by someone who may already feel or may have been specifically told that they don't belong. The reason I settled on the "how long has this been home" question is because it starts from the assumption that they do indeed belong, and it's based on the common idea that everyone has a home. Bill Kirst, a great friend of the college and with whom I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage twice for chapel talks, is also a firm believer in the power of stories. We both appreciate the elegance of the StoryCorps program on NPR and their website and encourage you to listen to it if you don't do so already. StoryCorps. What success I've been blessed with so far is due to the support and encouragement of family, friends, and colleagues, and so many who have walked the halls of Wabash College. This world is full of people, and here alumni waiting to help you, but they have to know you're there. Tell your story, listen to them, and listen to the stories of others. You'll be rewarded 100-fold. If you have ever witnessed someone being bullied, please stand. If you have ever been bullied yourself, please stand. And finally, if you have ever stood up for someone who was being bullied, please stand. Everyone can sit. If you have been bullied, notice you are not alone. If you have ever stood up for someone being bullied, notice you are not alone as well. Be visible, be authentic, and be engaged. Let's go to Civility. There's a brilliant author and scholar, Stephen L. Carter. I disagree with him about some pretty fundamental things, and I still think he's brilliant. He wrote, "Democracy, at its best, rests on a foundation of mutual respect among co-equal citizens willing to take the time for serious debate. After all, even on the momentous issues that divide us, there is usually the possibility that the other side has a good argument. Yet if we paint our opponents as monsters, we offer them no obligation to pay attention to what they have to say." Each of us has an awesome power at our disposal, and it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. It can be used to create effective teams, wealth, and goodwill, or it can be used to denigrate, divide, and destroy. Either of them very effectively. We're bright. We know how to think. We can outthink most of the people we will encounter in business and society, and that makes us both a tremendous asset and a real threat. You come to Wabash with an already adequate tool set, and you're adding new tools and becoming more skilled with the tools you brought every day. Whether it's in class, in late-night chats with teammates, fraternity brothers, or people in your dorm, or in the interactions you get with professors or alumni, you're always, always learning. And by the way, gentlemen, that love of learning lasts our whole lifetimes. The more tools you have to choose from in a situation, something the liberal arts gives us unfettered access to, the better you will do. I believe that when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts looking strangely like a nail. Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes a hammer makes things worse. There are things we have to stand for and some things we have to stand against. But much of what we face, matters of opinion, we can express our cogent thoughts without having to call those who think differently sons of bitches. No matter how much that term may generate tabloid headlines or energize those who are just not smart enough to engage intelligently in discussion. Civility is at the core of what we have to model for the world around us, and I would argue it's at the core of what we have to model for the world around us. It's not going to come with any consistency from some of our political leaders, but it can, and I argue it must come from us. It starts with us. While we have zero control over anything anyone may say or do, we have 100% control over how we react, or dare I say, respond to it. I'd like to take just a moment to raise a topic that touches on all of the points I've made today. It affects several of our Wabash brothers, and it is worthy of a thoughtful, engaged, civil discussion. The topic is DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. In talking with some of our Wabash brothers this week who are affected by this, a couple of things to remember have come up. Immigration is more than a border problem, it is a we problem. It's an issue created by differences that pertain to each other's livelihood, and the best approach is to understand all sides of this multifaceted problem. How can we practice living humanely if all we're concerned about are sound bites that are specifically crafted to divide and to polarize and to demonize? The right answer for us as a nation is likely to be based on mutual understanding. It's not nearly as fun as us versus them, but it is much more productive, and we all leave the table less bruised. This topic becomes very real when it is not just some nameless, faceless group of them, and it becomes our classmates and our brothers, our family of choice, even if not our family of birth. Can you imagine not only worrying about comps and finding a job, but also wondering if you'll have to go back to a country that was never your home? Last Saturday, I stood on the stage and I presented a career service award to my friend and Lambda Chi Alpha brother, Greg Castanius. It was a poignant moment for me because on October 27th, 2011, Greg stood right here. He was president of the NAWM at the time, and he said, "You have the college's and its alumni association's commitment to openness, inclusion, and participation by all. We are men and women of good faith with a commitment to blowing the doors of Wabash wide open so that everyone is a full participant. Please give us your support and give it a chance to work." It was a heartfelt invitation from Greg, and it's one that I took to heart. I re-engaged with Wabash College after many years of being away, and that was the catalyst that made it possible for me to be on the stage today and led to my being president of your alumni association. It's made a material difference in my life to be involved here and to count so many of you as friends and as family. I hope that as you graduate and as you join the ranks of alumni, you will remain engaged and find the same fulfillment and joy that I do being here with you. I follow in Brother Castanius' tradition and say that I personally will stand with those who are affected by immigration legislation. I don't know what the solution is. I'm smarter, though, for having listened to our men affected by this. I don't know what my standing up will look like, but I will not be ashamed. I will not be ashamed to stand up for fairness and equality. I have learned that lesson once already. I will continue to learn. I will continue to be visible, to be civil, and to engage, and I invite every one of you to do the same. In summary, this entire discussion this morning ends up being about nuance and complexity. You can be fiscally conservative and support equality for people of different races or orientations. You can be pro-choice and also support Second Amendment freedoms. You can be Christian and gay. You can be independent and support Greek life on campus. You can be Greek and support your Wabash brothers who have chosen, for whatever reason, to remain independent. Their choice or viewpoint, a choice or viewpoint that may be different from yours, does nothing to weaken the strength of your commitment. You don't need to make the same choice as someone else to validate theirs. Don't paint yourself into a corner. Don't let anyone else paint you into a corner with a false equivalency. Well, if you believe this, then you must be a blank. Life can be full of seeming contradictions that, when explored, are indeed not contradictions at all. As you enter your 20s, your brains are moving out of the period when you naturally, as a result of our evolution, form us versus them groups, and you become less acutely aware of who is us versus who is them. As we round the corner on our 50s, our brains are more concerned with not drooling on ourselves. Listen to the stories of your Wabash brothers and to those you encounter in your life. Share your stories. They will inspire others. Be your best selves. Be the people your parents, your professors, your friends, and your Wabash brothers would be proud of. Be visible, be authentic, be engaged, and be civil. My best wishes to you for a great semester and rest of your school year. The National Association of Wabash Men and I are here to help you shorten your learning curve, connect with each other, with alumni, and with others who can be of assistance to you. Reach out anytime. Wabash always fights, and we fight for each other. And always means always. Thank you, gentlemen.